What is up, guys? It is the sports nerd Bradley Walker, and welcome to the Walker Report, part of NGSC Sports. Guys, remember the website. It's ngscsports.com for all your current sports content. We are also part of Mancini Media, the Snowman Multimedia Sports, and the Game Winner Sports Network. Welcome in, guys. I know my hat is not invisible. It is green. I just realized I'm wearing a green hat on a green screen, and it looks like it's invisible, and I have a USF logo on. I'm going to keep it on. I think it's kind of cool. Anyway, guys, happy Thursday. We have three sponsors on the show. We are sponsored by creatingzenspaces.com. It is the local choice in St. Petersburg, Florida, for house cleaning, organization, decluttering, and pet sitting. It's about finding the peace within you and adding comfort to your life. And guys, remember, Zen Spaces begins with you. Be kind to yourself and one another. We are also sponsored by Garrett's Carrots. Illuminate your inner self, shatter the trendy norms, and open up your world to a newfound level of confidence and admiration. Garrett's Carrots, designer jewelry and luxury accessories at garrettscarrots.com. We are also sponsored, guys, by funwags.com. Born from a near tragedy when Roxy, Odin, and Lexi had a reaction from a store brand treat fueled to succeed with treats made from 3 to 5 ingredients you can pronounce. These mascots invite you to try funwags.com because our fur babies deserve the best. Head over to funwags.com. Welcome in, guys. Again, happy Thursday to everyone out there. Before I bring on my co-host, I want to apologize for what happened last week on this very show. We have taken care of the issue that happened last week. We've worked it out behind the scenes and stuff like that. We will, in the future, make sure that anything that is like that will be taken care of off the air. But it just got to a boiling point last week, and I think we all had to hash it out on the air, so we did that. Again, I want to apologize to the networks and to the sponsors for what happened. If you do want to watch that show, it is available on my LinkedIn page. I cannot get rid of it for some off-the-wall reason. Facebook and YouTube have been removed, but it's up on my LinkedIn page if you don't know what I'm referring to. But anyway, guys, I'm going to bring on my co-host. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, Riley. Okay, there we are.
What's happening?
Good evening, Brad.
All right.
Hey, Brad.
Let the games begin. The NBA draft is underway.
Yes. Like I said, guys, I wanted to apologize for, again, what happened last week. So I wanted to get that out there and say that before the show started.
Right. There we go.
It was nothing personal. It was a professional issue.
No.
I think that, in all honesty, I thought it was handled poorly. Tensions were running high. Things were said in the heat of the moment. Things that, like I said, it wasn't a personal issue. I had no issue, and I don't know if Alex is watching or not, but I have no personal issues with Alex. Yes, he said some mean things to me behind the scenes, but it is what it is. He's a hothead. He's, an East Coaster. They say things, and I don't take it personally. It's water under the bridge. If he wants to come back, apologize, not apologize. If we never talk about it ever again, I'm gonna laugh about it because I'm over it. And just the reason that things were said was because, and I think G-Dub will back me up on this, but I felt like he was acting rude, and he wasn't giving the guest room to speak. And we hashed it out, and the reason, and we can discuss that off air if you don't want to get into it here on the air. But for me, the reason why, and if you want me to stop, just say stop. But the reason why I felt like we needed to talk about it to him but not with him was because he wasn't understanding why we were upset about his behavior. Mm-hmm. And that was what we were trying to convey and get him to acknowledge, is that his behavior was inappropriate. Like, right. I understand disagreeing. I understand being fiery and passionate, but you can't be. It's one thing if we shoot barbs at each other we crack jokes, give each other a hard time. That's cool. But when we have a guest on, I think we need to hold ourselves to a higher level, a higher standard, a higher standard of professionalism, and not make fun of the guest. Now, if we have a rapport with the guest that we've had on 2, 3 times, 4 times, if Von Allen came back on, and we have a good working relationship with him, and we had that kind of where we were gonna, where we can be a little bit more, laid back and a little bit more relaxed. That's fun. But when we have a first time guest on, I want that guest to feel like they're being treated like they're on, ESPN or Fox or wherever, that we don't make them feel uncomfortable and unwelcome.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go turn on lights because it's going to get dark here real quick.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Do it Twilight style. No. Welcome.
More of a Harry Potter guy.
Sports After Dark. No.
You have to subscribe to my OnlyFans for that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Walker Report officially has an OnlyFans account, so if you want to see that kind of stuff, gotta pay for it. Or behind
Definitely.
the
Definitely. But and so that was my only gripe, was that I felt like he was, the problem was he was over talking. And that was the only issue.
Right.
Yeah. I guess, I'm over it. If he wants to come back on with a guest, he's gonna have to make sure he lets the guest answer questions from us before he says anything else. And I guess he said that Bob told him that everything was okay. But Bob told him in the middle of the show, hey, are you going to let me talk? He clearly came out and said that. Are you going to let me talk? So it's like right there, that it was, kind of bad. So, but yeah, I wanted to kind of bring that out, and that way we could clear the air, and then everything is cool now. I think he's moving this evening, so I didn't even, if he's watching, Alex, if you want to come back on next week with a guest, just make sure that we talk it over first and get things cleared up before because I don't want to have another episode like that last week. That's not what we're here for. So I don't want to have another episode like we did last week.
No.
But anyway, like Lou was saying, the NBA draft, I think, has kicked off. It's on ESPN, right? I'm assuming.
Or ABC, whichever one you want.
Okay.
I think in this case it'd be tipped off, wouldn't it?
Oh. Well, tipped off. You get the idea.
Well, yeah, because we already know who the first overall pick is already for the Spurs. So
exactly. But let's see if he's going to live up to the hype. You don't have to even wait till the season starts, because he's going to play in those summer leagues that are going to be beginning in a couple of weeks. So this will be his first test to see if he's worth all the hype.
Yeah.
Most of these players, they call once in a generation. But how can you say that when he hasn't even played in the NBA yet, or even playing in the summer leagues yet? The rich thing is, being, shall we say, overhyped. And, for all we know, it looks good on paper, but on the court, he could be a bust. He could be another he could be another.
And I'll be honest with you, Lou, I've heard on ESPN or Fox Radio, I forget what station is aired here in my local area, but they said that this is one of the weakest NBA drafts in a long time. Like, just the top 3 players are good. After that, it's like it goes down dramatically. So I don't know how true that is. But again, like you just said, how do you know the first 3 picks are going to pan out and someone that gets picked after the third pick?
He could be another Ben Simmons for all we know. Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Before we go on, I want to apologize also for the way I handled it last week. That was very unprofessional.
It's okay.
Of me. I should have handled it in a different situation, in a different way. Again, I apologize, but I just couldn't take it anymore.
Nope, it's fine, Gerald. We discussed it on the pre-show. I was on Gerald's show for a little while. I was out on the patio smoking a cigar before I got on the show, so that was cool. He caught me the right time, kind of chilling out and relaxing. I'm relaxing because I got good news today because I have to get my car fixed. It's going to cost me $2,300 to get my car fixed. So my timing chain broke. So, yeah. Yeah. So the whole thing with the solenoid thing that I fixed, that wasn't the issue. It was the timing chain. So, but that will be fixed hopefully next week, sometime next week. Car back. But it's going to I'm at home by myself and I have no car, so I can't. I have to walk if I'm going to go anywhere. So yeah.
Actually,
I was going to say, I wonder if it wouldn't be better to just get what you can out of it and invest in something new. They did $2,300.
I owe 2 years of payments on it, so that's why. That's why. If it was paid off, but I would hands down I would have gotten rid of it and got a new car, whatever. My thought process is I'll put the money into it, and in 2 years, when it's paid off, if I have some savings, I'm going to go ahead and use it as a down payment on a new car. That way I don't have to worry about fixing transmissions and engines and anything else that goes wrong with it after a certain period of time. So that was my thoughts. Yeah, I've been kind of quiet all week, and that's kind of the reasoning why. But I found out today somebody's going to help me, so I was out smoking a victory cigar, I guess is what you could say.
What were you smoking?
The cigar that I was smoking was called. Hang on, just a minute, because it was bought for me. It was a Padron 1926 number 6 Maduro. It's a small cigar. It's a short one. It was very good, though. I guess it's Venezuelan from what I did research online. So, yeah, Venezuela can make some cigars. That's all I'm going to say.
They make very nice cigars.
So, yeah, that was.
I was gonna ask if you ever ordered the other two that we talked about.
I haven't yet, but like I said, I got to get my car fixed first. But after that, I'm gonna. I have those two ready to go. The Fat Bottom Betty and what was the other one?
The Spurs just took an international player.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the number 1 overall pick. Yep. Yeah.
No surprise here.
That one of Monatumba, whatever his name is.
Yeah, whatever his last name is.
Mbayana.
Kumbaya.
Yeah,
I'm not. Isn't he like 7 foot?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just the angle.
Wow, that's a big boy. That's a tall guy.
So yeah, he's 7 foot something, and the thing about him is he can actually move. He moves like a Giannis and stuff like that. He's got moves. He can shoot the ball.
Yeah. Well, I think the game has changed so much. You can't just be big. You know, like back in the day, if you were 7 foot, you could dominate the game. But just being 7 foot isn't good enough anymore. You actually have to be able to play.
Yep.
You have to be able to move with and without the ball, and because like if you can't move, the little guy, and little being a relative term, is 6'8" is little. Say again.
Size is everything, you know.
5'5".
Yeah.
But Kobe, guys like Kobe so changed the game that you couldn't just be big anymore, and the rules have changed too.
He's got a size 20.5 shoe.
You know what they say about guys with big feet? Big socks.
He's bigger than Phil O'Neal was.
I think he threw out the first pitch at a Yankees game earlier this week. I think.
Yeah, I think he did.
The ball is like tiny in his hand, like a ping pong ball in his hand as he threw the ball to the catcher.
It's a golf ball, but okay.
Yeah, golf ball will work too. Golf ball work too.
Works tennis ball.
27 pounds.
Yeah, he's like I said, he can move and he can shoot because the center position in the NBA is gone. There's no more Shaquille, Elijah Wands, Patrick Ewings. That position is almost all but gone. They don't really have too many big guys anymore that can clog the middle. Like Adam said, Kobe changed the game. That's hands down. Kobe changed the game.
Well, the rules have changed. The center position has evolved with the rules. You don't just go down low and bang bodies anymore. Because nobody wants to watch 79-75. That's boring. Nobody wants to watch an offensive struggle, or in this case, offensive struggles. The big, you have to be able to play out on the wing. You have to be able to shoot from the perimeter because driving the lane and kicking. And the other thing that it's changed is the numbers. We have data on the last 30 years. And if you're shooting 44% from 15 to 22, and you're shooting 44% or even 43% from beyond the arc, it's a higher percentage basket. So it seems like those great Spurs teams from the early 2000s, the early odds, what they would do is if they couldn't get a good look down low, 8 feet in, you kick to the corner. And it's corner three. Because if you go 12 for 24 from 3, that's 12 extra points as opposed to going 12 for 23 from 15 to 18. You might as well kick it. You might as well kick it out and shoot that. Yeah, is it a low? It's like it's 1% lower.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, and then the other NBA news: John Morant got 25 game suspension to start the season.
Too soft.
That's what a lot of people have said. I've read a lot of comments that said it's too soft. I'm not an NBA fan, so I'm not gonna. I don't know if that's enough. Obviously, and Adam has brought this up too, and I think I've read a lot of articles about it too. I think Ja's got some mental issues. He's got psychological stuff going on that he needs to now during the offseason before he goes back and plays basketball with the Grizzlies. He's got to get his head straight again so that he doesn't get caught in dumb stuff that he's done that's costing him millions of dollars. I mean, he's a great player on the court. It's just he can't stay out of trouble off the court. And there are a lot of athletes that have that issue that they can't stay out of trouble, off the court. So
yeah,
I
was going to clamber up on my soapbox and scream it from the rafters that he needs to go for a psych eval to make sure that he doesn't have some kind of mental health issue. That because, and then this is, I don't know the man, I don't know his situation. I'm not in his inner circle. But as someone from afar advocating for him and his future, and for all, it's not just him. You can look at it, you go, yeah, he's pissing away millions of dollars, but that could have happened to anybody. You could get, he's lucky in the fact that he is playing professional sports for a living. He's not a steel worker in Pittsburgh who's just been fired because he got caught on Instagram waving a gun around. Mm-hmm. He's lucky in that regard. But it's not any. Sorry, Joe, you saying something? I missed it.
Right.
No? Okay. So the fact that men don't take their mental health seriously, and Gerald can as someone who is a fellow mental health survivor, Gerald can attest to that. The macho, and especially in the inner city communities where you're seen as a pansy, it's breaking the stigma around going and getting mental health, it's not to say you're weak. It's not, you're not admitting defeat. you're saying it's acknowledging that you have a problem and seeking professional help is what I'm advocating for. Is actually taking it takes courage to step up and say, hey, I have a problem. I need help. That is the hardest part. The first part to recovery. The first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem.
Yeah.
And and we can say it's not hard enough. We can say it's too soft, but at the end of the day, if he doesn't go and get the help, you could suspend him for you could give him a lifetime ban. He's not going to learn because from what the research that it's funny that this happened because I'd been me and my mom have been sending each other videos back and forth about ADHD, which I as an outsider looking in, and this is not a a diagnosis. I can't diagnose from afar, and I'm not a mental health professional. Seek mental health advice from an actual licensed professional, but it's all the hallmarks of an ADHD or executive function dysfunction, executive dysfunction disorder, where you can't learn from your mistakes because you don't think about the consequences in the moment. You can't. Normal people, or normal being a relative term, they can, somebody who doesn't suffer from a mental health disorder can look at their actions and go, okay, that last time that got me in big trouble, so this time I'm not going to do it. But for someone that suffers from some kind of executive dysfunction, they can't process the fact that the last time they did that, it got them in trouble. And so, especially when you mix in intoxicants and adrenaline, because we think of negative emotions being, yelling and screaming and carrying on and being a jerk as being the only, being the stigma or being the stereotypical executive function that makes people don't want to be around you. But if you're fun to be around and you don't have, when you get into those situations where you're getting a massive dump of dopamine and you get, it makes you feel good, it elevates it lowers your inhibitions by dumping in those feel good chemicals that makes you feel like you can't do, like whatever you do isn't going to be wrong because everybody else is doing it. It's cool. I'm with my friends. I'm hanging out. I'm having a good time. And you can't regulate either any emotions. You have emotional dysregulation. So whether it be a happy emotion or a sad emotion, anger, take positive or negative emotions, you can't regulate them the way that a regular person does. And so when he gets in that situation where the gun comes out, and I don't know if he was doing any kind of drugs, but I know there was alcohol involved, and we know that alcohol lowers your inhibitions anyway. And when you have an executive dysfunction and you're self-medicating with alcohol or drugs, and you're not taking your mental health seriously, you can say, like I said, and I feel like I'm starting to repeat myself, but you can hammer him, you can sit him down, and you can scream, you can yell, you can do whatever you want. You can suspend him for 25 games, you can suspend him for 50 games, you can suspend him for 100 games, you could give him an indefinite suspension, and and he could sit out 5 years, but he can't understand. And he can in all sincerity say, hey, I'm never going to do that again. But when he gets in that situation, he doesn't have the executive function. This executive function doesn't function properly, so he doesn't remember that the last time he did that thing, it got him in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I will clamber down off my soapbox now, unless somebody else has a fit.
And I want to kind of elaborate on what Adam was saying. Somebody that actually has a mental disability, as in myself, it's hard for us to make it the determination of what's right and wrong. You know, we know it's wrong, but our brains are not wired the same way a normal person is. You know, it's like if you go down an interstate and you hit a traffic jam. That's the way a person with mental illness thinks. You know, our brain is a big traffic jam. You know,
Yes.
Our mind is always racing. You know, it's like, okay, we know go out and do this is wrong, but we can't comprehend what's going to get it, what the consequence is of that action. You know, like with me, I'll be honest, I've been in jail twice for alleged aggravated assault.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Twice for assault, one for failure to appear on the child support case. And it took for me being locked up on the child support case to realize, look, you have a mental problem. You need to get help.
Yes.
No, I just kept sweeping it under the rug, like, you know, nothing's wrong. You know, nothing's wrong. You know, it's just all, I'm just being paranoid. You know. And also, this is before I was put on any of my medication. You know, I just kept sweeping it under the rug, you know, kept thinking nothing's wrong, you know. It's just that I'm having a bad time. No, it's me. But when I got arrested for that child support case, I actually sat there on the rack thinking, man, what is going on? Something's not right. And that's when I went to see the jail psychiatrist. And that's when he just said, you know, well, it seems like you have bipolar syndrome. You know, because one minute I could be happy, upbeat, fun to be around. Next minute, like a light switch. And I become agitative, wanting it my way right then and there. But ever since I got on this medication, my wife can vouch for this. She has seen a totally different person in me. I still have my moments, but it's not as bad as they were.
It's good to know.
You know, there's one time this couple times before I was put on my medication, I threatened to take my own life.
Yeah, that's not good either.
Nope.
You know, once was when I was locked up for the child support case, and that's when I'm like, okay, wait a minute. A normal person would not think this way.
No.
No, something is not clicking right up here. Something is wired backwards.
Gerald, my roommate, the one that I live with now, my best friend, he's like a brother to me. I've known him for over 20 years. He has bipolar too. He takes medication for it. And he told me that he struggled the same way you did, where like 1 minute you're happy and then snap of a finger, you could be angry or depressed just like that. Snap of a finger, you can go from one emotion to the other. So it runs in his family. His mother has it. So he had hereditary, you know, stuff like that. So, and
also, you know, just the little things can set a person with bipolar off. You know, if it's simple like putting a cell phone in a case. If the case won't go together right, you know, they're gonna get mad and break it.
Right. Frustrated. Yep.
And my wife knows when I'm not on my medication. Because there was one time I got off of it. I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it the natural way. And she looked at me and she goes, either you get back on that medication or you're going to be on the other part of the house.
Good woman to have.
And, you know, to piggyback off of what you were saying and kind of, close this segment out, that is the biggest thing is that we need to advocate for mental health and mental health awareness and getting people help. And
Yeah.
like Gerald was saying, it took him, sitting in a jail cell to realize that he was out of it. But it doesn't have to get that. We don't have to get that low. You don't have to get that low to get help. And if you don't know, if you can't understand why things aren't working the way you need them to work, then you need to just seek help. And there's so many resources out there, and especially for a guy like Morant, who has all of he has money, he has fame. There are and then this is not just for the rich and powerful, but the yeah, there are plenty of doctors that will discreetly evaluate you and will help you to get the help that you need without making you feel like there's something wrong with you. That's the biggest thing is that just because you have a problem doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. Go get help, and then you can be a productive, functioning member of society, and nobody has to know. You can keep it to yourself, but
Exactly.
if you need help, get help.
Exactly.
And just like, it doesn't have to be with a psychiatrist. If you're feeling down or something, pick the phone, call one of your friends. To say, look, I need someone to vent to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And
I was going to say, anyone out there that's struggling with this, call friends. There are websites. Get the help that you need. Don't do something, as stupid or as selfish as suicide or something like that, because suicide doesn't fix the problem. It worsens it for the people that love you. Now they miss you now. Now you're gone. So yeah, I mean,
it has no return from suicide, but if you
correct.
get help for mental illness, you can come back from that. Not totally come back, but there's therapy they can use to help you cope.
Well, I heard it put. I like this analogy. When if you're in a wheelchair, if you have a spinal cord injury, end up in a wheelchair, they don't take your ramp away, right? If you have a mental health issue, if you have a mental health disability, that is going to be with you for the rest of your life. And the best way to fix it is to get help. And I'm not saying that calling your friend, talking to somebody isn't it's a good first step. It's a great first step, And then what we need to do as friends is we need to advocate them seeking out professional help to get them the tools, whether it be, I know a lot of people that I don't want to take meds because I don't want to be a zombie. Okay, that's fine. But that means
not all medications that you take for bipolar or mental illness will make you a zombie.
But the thing is, you need to talk to your doctor about the different options, because there are so many more options to treating your mental illness than there ever were in the past, and we're learning more every day about how to deal with mental health. So if you're feeling like there's something wrong, call your friends, and then your friends, as friends, we need to recognize that they're having a mental health crisis, and we need to get them to go and talk to doctors, people that are trained medical professionals who know what they're doing and can get them, whether it be a pair of crutches or a therapy set. Whether some people need crutches and are going to be on crutches for the rest of their lives. Some people need a cane to help them move around. And some people just need somebody to talk to, and they'll be all right.
And I can tell you this right now. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Adam, but this popped in my head. Having mental illness does not make you weak.
No.
It does not make you different.
No.
Because what I lack in from being a mental ill, I make it up in other ways. Like I'm good with my hands.
Mm-hmm.
You bring me a lawnmower that's not running, and give me about an hour or two with it, and it'll be running. You put a book in front of me and tell me, "Hey, I need you to learn this." I throw the book away. See, I'm hands-on smart. See, people with mental illness don't understand they have other capable abilities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like people with bipolar. You know, some of us are book smart, some of us are on hand smart.
And that's the other thing that your therapist can help you to, especially if you're young. If you're a young person, 16, 17, 18, that's the best time. The earlier you can get, the earlier it gets caught, the sooner it can get treated, and the better your life can be. Just like any other disease, and the sooner it gets caught, the easier the treatment is, and the better your life can end up being. So if if you need help, seek help.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you break your leg, you don't just go, oh well, I'm just gonna have to live with a broken leg for the rest of my life, and I'm just gonna deal with it. You go to the doctor and you get the doctor to fix it. So why would you treat your mental health any differently than your broken leg? And why do we treat mental health any different than the broken leg? And that is the biggest problem with the mental health in our society is the fact that we treat people who are mentally ill like they're some kind of they're a leper, like they don't deserve to be recognized. I mean, we create this stigma around mental health and the unseen disease. But if you see somebody in a wheelchair, and they're doing their best, living their life, oh, look at them go. It's a wonderful story, and we advocate for the Special Olympics, and we make accommodations and I'm not saying that we shouldn't. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm saying that, and I wasn't talking to you. I was just talking to the general public. We accommodate the people with physical disabilities. We make the world easier and more, and we make them feel more capable, as we should. So why do we treat people with mental health issues any different than somebody with physical health issues? And that is the transition that we need to make over the next, several, successive decades, over the next few generations, about getting people to, the first step to get help is
To admit
admitting you have a problem.
You have to
Well,
admit that you have
the
a problem.
thing is, though, that sorry.
And don't be embarrassed to admit that you have a problem. See, that was my biggest problem. I was embarrassed. I'm like, well, if I go tell so and so that I'm having these thoughts, they're gonna laugh at me. But then I can realize, like, look, I need to quit doing that and just get the help. And also, if you don't have a way to get to a psych ER or anywhere, pick up the phone, dial your local police department, and tell them, look, I'm having thoughts. I'm having thoughts of hurting myself. I need help. And they will send cops out there to help you get to where you can get the help. The cops will actually take you down to the psych ER if you want to go, and the cops will not judge you.
No, what were you saying, Lou? I was curious where you were going to go with that.
The cops, whether for them to help you than for you to take your own life. Because I've been there several times myself. And down here in Austin, I don't know about in other states, but down here, we do now have mental health cops that are actually trained how to handle mental illness situations. You know, like if they come upon a mental illness, a mental suspect, you know, they know how to talk that person down, you know, try to get that person to calm down to where they can get the help. But back, like Adam was saying, back before this was so a big deal, you know, a cop pulls up on the scene and a mental person's coming at him with a weapon. The cops just shoot.
Which is wrong.
They went through all this training to learn how to deal with mental illness people.
And go ahead, Lou.
I think the problem is that, okay, when we see somebody that has a physical ailment, you know, somebody using a wheelchair, crutches, or
A walker.
this thing right here, you know, they can see that. It's hard to see, well, because you can't see, you know, what's inside a person's brain. You can't see, you know, the mental, you know, the bipolar, you know, even when you can't see. It's very hard to diagnose. So I think that's a problem why they're more capable of like helping someone physically, but not the mentally, because you can't see it, you know, inside of it. So I think that's the problem right there.
And that was that. I'm gonna piggyback off of that about what you know, like you were saying, that you can't see mental health, so we need to step up as a society and start advocating for people to recognize the symptoms of mental health disorders, so that we can better, so that because we can work together as a society,
right,
to advocate for mental health, and to step up and as a society, as regular people, you know, just in our average everyday life, you know, advocating for people to go get help, and to break the stigma. And I think that's going to be that is the it should be, aside from actually people actually getting help, is to break the stigma of getting help.
right.
That is the next, you know, like I was going to say, what I was thinking was, you know, the first step to it, you know, the first step to getting better is to think you have a problem, and then the first step for society to getting better is to recognize when there is a problem, and to start advocating for more mental health resources for people, and instead of just calling someone stupid, you know, obviously there's a distinction between somebody being stupid and somebody being, you know, mentally ill. You know, a 16-year-old kid that, you know, does something stupid may not necessarily be mentally ill. You know, a 36-year-old who gets into a bar fight over a girl, he may have had a bad night. He may just have had a stupid moment.
You're just making an ass of yourself. Doesn't mean you're mentally ill. You're just making an ass of yourself.
Well, exactly. But if we break the stigma around mental health, so that people realize that people can recognize that they have a problem, you know, and it's advocacy. It's you know, it's the kind of, you know, like the idea behind all the breast cancer awareness that was so prevalent a decade ago, about going and getting screened early, and about you know, whether, you know, with breast cancer, colon cancer, you know, getting a colonoscopy when you turn 50, you know, getting screened for you know, the underlying conditions, diabetes, you know, Alzheimer's, whatever. Take your cause du jour. You know, we broke the stigma around going and getting tested for cancers and, you know, other diseases, you know, arthritis. it wasn't just you're an old person. You can go and get help and you can feel better. So if we can advocate for breast cancer, colon cancer, or arthritis, or measles, mumps, rubella, whatever, take your as I said, cause du jour. We can advocate for mental health and break the stigma around. And it's very much it's very much a men's issue, because the way we look at men, and then obviously all of us being men, it's hard for us to admit when we don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? It's very much our fathers and our fathers before us and our fathers before them. They were manly men who did man shit, and they pushed their feelings were for women and children, and they fought in the war, and having emotions and feelings and admitting that you weren't tough. You didn't. Men are men when they're tough and they're grizzled, and if they don't have if you don't have a limp, if you ain't broken down and run down when you're 35, you're not a real man. If you're not out there working 16-hour days, you're not a real man. Breaking that tradition of manly madness is important for the future of our society and our species in general. That you can be strong without being stupid, being obstinate. Obstinate's a good word. Like going and getting screened is so important for not just your physical health but your mental health. Taking breaks and taking time off to just reset your batteries is super important, not just for your physical health but your mental health. And we can close on that if y'all want to.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I think we just need to neglect our mental health, more. That's what just comes down.
Well, we can go ahead and pivot into NASCAR. Is there 9 races left in the season to the playoffs? Or 10?
10. This is 16.
Okay.
They're in Nashville this week, right? Coming up?
Correct. Yes, they are in Nashville this week.
I happen to be watching. I'm one of those crazy people that watched all. 10 hours of the U.S. Open on Saturday. So I watched 10 hours of golf. I know I'm one of the, a super fan of the game. But I saw the preview for their racing in Nashville, and then they're also racing in the streets in Chicago. I think the next 2 weeks are those races coming up. I was in Nashville. Where's the track? Is it outside of downtown? Where is the track?
Yeah, it's not too far from down. I'm not sure exactly where it is offhand. But, no, this is the second year they've run it in Nashville. And I think it's concrete, isn't it? I believe Nashville's concrete.
Okay.
It'll be a concrete race. And like I was talking about on Gerald's show, it's so hard in motorsports to have competitive races because of just the nature of the beast. They've tried different things over the years to keep the cars close and keep the battles up. But, so often you get 10 laps into a run and, the person's got a 2-second lead and everybody else is 2 seconds apart, and we're watching the battle for 16.
Mm-hmm.
4 cars racing for 16. And, that's happened throughout the history of motorsports. It doesn't matter whether it's Indy cars or F1 or NASCAR or any of the 3 NASCAR divisions, and it's just there's no answer. And that's just the nature of the beast. That's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
You know, if you know, like I was saying on Gerald's show, if you hit on the setup, but you know, you get stuck in, you know, if you have a really good long run car, but you can't get out of, you know, and the race ends up being a series of short runs because, you know, everybody else is just wrecking around you and you can't get up, you can't move forward, you get stuck 22nd and you end up running 22nd all day because there weren't any long runs and everybody's got pretty good short run speed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you average 15 laps of green flag and then there's a caution and everybody, you know, the field gets bunched back up and you don't take off on a short run. It takes you 15, 20 laps to get into it. You know, it's so hard to make up ground because, you know, they're just so aero dependent that if you get stuck behind someone, you're stuck behind them, you know, or you're rooting them a bottle away and, you know, you're beating and banging. And the next thing you know, you're head on into the wall because you can't hit a guy 3 times and now you're quick to hit you back.
No.
You know, look at the thing going on with Denny Hamlin and what's his name? Chase Elliott.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And that's what I was referencing. Yes.
You know, those two have been going at each other week after week after week. Who started it? Denny.
I was gonna say Hamlin. We
It
talked about
doesn't,
how
it
dirty.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who started it. I'm going to finish it. You know, and you know, and the thing about it is, you can only lean on a guy for so long before he retaliates.
You know,
You know, and
it's just like you get into a fist fight. You're not gonna stand there and let the other guy beat on you.
Right.
No, you're gonna try to get your shots in too. That was somebody that's on my show, guys. He is awesome. He's the one that I invited over to come on here if he decides to, Brad.
Yeah, let him know. I was hearing him talk on your show because I was on there briefly.
Oh
yeah, he's a good guy. Real quick, guys, does it look like I have a black USF hat on? That's pretty.
it does. It looks awesome. It looks awesome.
I'm not gonna be able to get our logo behind me, but
Texas Longhorn hat. You need a
black.
Texas Longhorn hat.
It's the wrong horns, right? It's the wrong horns,
Right.
Is that?
No, I'm talking about the burnt orange and white.
Yeah, well, I wear green and gold.
Black and white,
Oh.
but the burnt orange and white.
I wear green and gold. Yeah.
But no, yeah. So you know,
Next year, when Texas enters the SEC, so I can watch us beat up on Florida.
We'll watch the game together.
There you go. we can do it through StreamYard.
Correct.
Yeah.
but yeah. So you know, it's a crapshoot each week. You know, it is what it is. I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to make the cars not aero dependent. You know, not to not get, you know, because what happens is you know, they're so aero dependent. You get in behind a guy, and if you're not 10 miles an hour faster than him, you know, you get stuck in behind a guy, and you know, if you're running 12th and you're going for 11th and you get on the inside of the guy and your car just won't stick and you got to get out of it, you're losing. You're going to 14. You know, if you dive bomb into the corner and you get tight, you wash up and take a guy out into the wall. So I mean, because the cars are so aero dependent, you know, if you run behind a guy for 3 laps, just dogging him, the guy that it's ahead of you, it's put 2.5 seconds on you, and you just can't catch him. You just can't catch. You can't run him down.
Just like you were saying too, Adam. You know, to piggyback off of what you're saying, you can start the race leading 3, 4 laps, 2, 3, 4, 5 laps into the race. You could be 14th, 15th, a dead last. That's how quick the race can change. I mean, You start the race on the pole.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to win this. I'm going to win this. 3 laps later, 4 laps later, you're at the back of the pack, and you sit there thinking, how in the hell did this happen? I started first, and I'm way in the back now.
Yeah, that's you start in.
Or you can start in the back of the longest lap and come up and win the race.
Yeah, that's insane. That to think about that. I mean, I tried to go obviously to Charlotte, and the race got rained out, but it was kind of cool watching races with Adam. We watched the Indy 500, most of the Indy 500 at the stadium while it was pouring down rain. But it was kind of cool, listening to you guys, you and Gerald both, the knowledge that you can learn from somebody who knows a lot about the sport. And that's like you said, I mean, aren't most of motorsports, NASCAR, F1, Indy, aren't they all like depending on aerodynamics and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Kind of how the cars are built.
And set up.
I'm assuming that they're not ever going to change that because
No,
it's faster, right?
it's just
You can have a good car at the start of the race. Your car can be set up perfect, running great, have no trouble. Come in for one pit stop
Right.
and have them do adjustments, and your car could be screwed.
sprint. It's an absolute dump truck. You can be plowing. You can be knocking the fences down and running away with the thing. Come in, put a fresh set of tires on, and them tires are junk. Just can't drive the thing and never get it back.
Or they could come in and they said we're going to do a wedge adjustment.
Let's not do that.
They stick that wrench in the back window, turn it a couple times. You go out there, you're all over the damn track.
Can't drive it now. I don't know what you did, but don't do that again.
Then you got to come back down, and they got to try to figure out what they had it set at the start of the race.
Cool.
It's all dynamics. It's how the crew chief set up the car. It's how the driver drives the car, and it's how the pit stops go. That's the 4 major things it takes to win a NASCAR race.
Well, like I was saying on your show, and I'm sure you know that, but you can set it up. It's Friday afternoon. You're rolling the track. You're looking at the weather report. Okay, it's going to be 95 with 87% humidity. It's going to be hot. You're going to be slick. It's going to be miserable out there. And so we need to make sure we got this car tightened up. So you set it up to be tight. You got in qualifying, and you're not fast in qualifying, but no big deal.
Right.
It's going to race well. It's going to race well. And that, you can't win it on Saturday. You can't win it on Saturday. So,
No.
we'll keep up with the track. We'll make adjustments, and then we'll come in, and we'll work our way towards the front. And a couple cautions, and we'll be right there in the mix. This car's going to be badass. You go out there Sunday afternoon, and it's now 75 with a 75 and overcast and a rain all morning. And now your car is just too tight. You just can't get it loose enough.
And it's going, it can take 10, 15 pit stops to try to get the car loosened up or get it right.
And to get it close.
15 stops, you possibly could get it set right. Then again, you may not ever get it set right again.
Yeah, you may never get it back. Let's say you're planning on 8 pit stops. So okay, we're gonna have 8 chances to work on it, and you come in on that first green flag. Let's say you get a green flag stop in, or say you get an early caution. It's just plowing tight. You can't get it to turn. And so you come in and you throw a whole bunch of wedge at it, right? We're gonna take a whole bunch of wedge out of it, and you go back out there, give up a whole bunch of track position. So now you're running, and you're running 22nd, and somebody has a brain fart and wipes out 8 cars, and you get caught up in it, and your day's ruined. That's just them's the breaks. Should have been back there with them guys anyway.
So it's one of those damn if you do, damn if you don't situations.
Exactly.
The driver has to rely on his pit crew. The pit crew and the crew chief has to rely on the driver. The driver has to tell the has to tell his crew chief, hey, the car's not doing this.
Yeah.
The car's not turning right, or I don't have enough braking, or I don't have enough downforce.
Well, there was. I forget. I think
The crew chief has to communicate, and the crew chief has to communicate that down to the pit crew.
Well, I think it was. I think it was Andy Petrie. He was on Dale Junior Download a couple of years ago, and he was talking about when he first got to DEI, or not DEI, but Childress. He first got to Childress, and he got working with Dale, and they were testing Rockingham or something like that. Dale went down in the corner, and it's like, okay, listen, and they went a few laps. He come and he's like, yeah, it's neutral, and Petrie was like, okay. Sent him back out there. We made a couple adjustments, sent him back out there, and he's like, it's neutral. You come back in, I'm like, okay. So then he sent him back, made another adjustment, and sent him back out there. 5-10 laps, he come back in. This thing is neutral. And Andy had no idea what he meant by neutral. And Dale, neutral was loose. This thing was loose. He couldn't even drive. He could barely hang on. So Andy, they got talking, and I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's what you mean by neutral. It's loose. He never heard somebody call a loose race car neutral.
If you the best way to understand what goes on between the driver and the crew chief and the pit crew is to watch a race, because you hear it all the time. Especially with Chase Elliott, he's very vocal with his crew chief.
And every driver is a little bit different. Every driver thinks a little bit differently. And every driver has a little bit different what they're, one driver may, like Kyle Busch, likes a real loose race car. Kyle Busch would rather catch it than have to turn into it. Kevin Harvick wants a tighter race car. So, you go from working with Kyle Busch to going to work with the Kevin Harvick, or, any driver, it doesn't matter, just the two names that came to my mind. But, you try to put a Kevin Harvick setup under Kyle Busch, and then you just can't drive it. It's junk. You can't drive it. And you put a Kyle Busch setup under Kevin Harvick, and it's junk, and you can't drive it. So like you were saying, it's about people don't think about how much of a team sport, just like your caddy. As we pivot to golf here, like your caddy.
Just like
if you don't have a good working relationship with your caddy. Your caddy says, I think we run a 7 iron here. And it's 135 yards from the pin, slight north-northwest wind. It's greens are fast today. Pop it up and let it run. And so, if you don't have that kind of working relationship with your crew chief, with your car chief, with the engineers back in Charlotte, there's so much that there's so much that goes into getting a race car ready for a weekend. Just like there's so much that goes in getting a bag ready. You're playing a short par 3, so we're not bringing a driver this week. There's not a lot of long shots. So I'm leaving the driver at home. We're just gonna play woods all weekend.
I don't know if Adam watched this one race, but I watched it. Chase Elliott was so PO'd about his car. He was sitting there cussing out his crew chief and his pit crew team. He's sitting there saying, "This GD thing ain't running. It's running like crap. I'm gonna bring it in. Y'all better get this GD thing fixed right now, or y'all can have this MFer." I'm sitting there thinking, "Wow."
It's happened before with caddies too. I've seen golfers get pissed at their caddies too. So it's just like that.
Yeah.
The chief is the caddy, driver, or vice versa. However you want to look at it.
No, the caddy, the crew chief it would be a caddy.
Yeah.
Your caddy knows exactly. Your caddy's like when you go out on a golf course, as a professional golfer, you take a caddy with you. Your caddy is expected to know how the course plays and each hole, each distance, and be able to range a distance on the fly and go, we're 135, but you're hitting them fat today. So you know what? I think instead of going with a 7, we're gonna go with an 8. You're just hitting them long today. Every shot's been, you've been missiles. Every shot's been missiles. So you know what? And we're gonna play into that, and we're gonna give, instead of giving you a 7-iron, which has more distance, we're gonna give you an 8. I'm gonna give you the 8. I think the 8-iron is where we need to be at right here, because you've been hitting them fat all day. So we'll take a little bit off, so that you can, because it's easier to give you less club and let you swing through it than it is to give you more club and tell you to take something off of it.
Yeah.
Unless am I totally off base there? Or?
No, you're fine. But I was gonna say
just like with the NASCAR tires. You got your regular tires, then you have your stickers or your scuffs, whatever. Some teams call them stickers, some teams call them scuffs. But
depends on what they are.
Yeah, if you come in and you're down to your last set of tires, but you have your stickers and your scuffs, instead of using those new tires, for like, let's say if it's like 30 laps to go, you're not going to put new tires on to go 30 laps.
Maybe. Depends on where we're at.
Yeah, it depends. But
what
a 24th.
Let's say 60 to go. 60 to go, you got one set of stickers left. You might get a late caution. You want that set of stickers for the end. So this run we're gonna put scuffs on, so we can save those stickers for the end. With these 6-lap tires, we ran 6 laps in practice on these. We're gonna put them back on, and so that we have a set of tires at the end. So with 30 to go, you might be like, you know what, this heat cycle, we like the tires with a heat cycle in them. So you've been running great on this. So we're gonna save the stickers, and we're gonna put a set of scuffs on.
Sit down and be like, okay, what, your right side is still good. Let's just change the left side and get you back out there.
Yeah, we might go 2 tires. We might go no tires. We might just go gas only. There's, we just need we can't. We're running 16th. We go gas only. We be out, and we can, we'll get the lead. We might, and who knows what happens.
Because the crew chief has to listen to the driver. If the driver tells the crew chief, "Hey, my car's got a bad vibration in it, I'm coming in," the crew chief has no choice but let the driver come in.
Bring it to us. Everybody's up on the wall. But so it's that same thing in golf, where you got to trust your caddy. Your caddy's supposed to know, and that's the kind of the working relationship you build with your crew chief and with your caddy. It's that knowing what how you're playing in a given tournament. How the course is playing, how the wind's blowing. How you're shooting. And giving you advice, and and of course, and I correct me if I'm wrong, but the golfer has the ultimate say, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So in kind of the same way, it's different than like a driver has a certain say. The crew chief, each crew chief driver relationship is a little bit different, and they it depends on because some crew chiefs don't mind being screamed at. That's just the way they work. Other crew chiefs don't want to be screamed at. You just drive the damn car and I'll make it run for you. So.
And then, don't mean to cut you off, Adam, but if as a team owner, you could have a good driver but a crappy crew chief, or vice versa.
Right.
Your driver and crew chief, if they don't get along, you might as well say goodbye to that team, because it's going to fall.
Bye.
Well, or you can just have a crew chief and driver that just can't get they're perfectly happy with each other. No problem with the guy, but like the name that comes the William Byron and Rudy Friedel.
Oh, those two were great. Those two are good together.
They're great together. They win races together. And I forget who was on the box before that. Was it Knaus?
Yes, it was Chad Knaus.
It was Knaus. Well, Knaus moved into an executive role, and they put Rudy Fugle on the box, and that's been a match made in heaven. And then, it's there are so many
because Byron and his crew chief, they know what each other's thinking before the race.
during the race. Byron keeps radio and says
Byron does not have to say nothing to his crew chief. His crew chief will tell him, "Look, bring the car in. Let's check it out."
And Cliff Daniels and Kyle Larson, they're great together too. And it's just like your caddy. If you have you have to have a good working relationship with your caddy. You have to trust your caddy at the end of the day, and because that's what you're paying to do.
And his crew chief are great together.
You pay your caddy at the end of the day. You pay your caddy to know what to do in any given golf situation that might arise. And so, if you don't trust your caddy, then if you're contradicting your caddy at every turn, if you for our example from earlier, if he says, I'm thinking the 8, and you go, no, 7, give me the 7, and he goes, okay, here's the 7, and then you hit it fat, and you fly the green, and now you're in the rough on the back side of the green, then you know why. So, there's so many, people don't think about, motorsports, and this is true across the board in motorsports. It's not just NASCAR, but it's IndyCar and F1 and your local Saturday night short track.
Yeah.
And it is so true in all sports, is that if you don't have that level of trust where you can just go, where you can take what your team leader, the instructions that your team leader is giving you, and apply those to the situation, then the team leader has lost the team at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, you were talking about caddy. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Legend of Bagger Vance with Will Smith and Matt Damon.
Oh, yeah.
If you ever watch that movie, before he plays against Bobby Jones and Walter Hagen, Will Smith is Matt Damon's caddy, and the little kid that's narrating the story says that they walked every step of the golf course, counting every step, every yard, knowing where the trees were, knowing where water hazards are, knowing where not to hit the ball. That's a perfect example of a caddy doing their job. A lot of the PGA caddies will go out when the golf course is set up before practice rounds and tell the player, okay, they were having trouble here, or it's a little quick here, or the rough's a little higher over here. Let's avoid those situations. Last week at the Los Angeles Country Club, where the U.S. Open was held, a famous mansion is not too far from the golf course, the Playboy Mansion, which is not the Playboy Mansion anymore, but it was sold. But it's not too far from the golf course. My analysis of it, I feel bad for Ricky Fowler. He's had a bad rap in his career. He's been away, out of contention for so long. He played 3 good rounds, and then on Sunday laid an egg. Right. And it just happened that way. And out of the blue, Wendell Clark, I've never even heard of the kid, won the U.S. Open.
Wendell Clark? Didn't he play for the Leafs in the 90s?
Last year, he was 246th in the rankings. He shot all the way up to number 13th in that.
Didn't they shoot 262s last week?
Yeah, Ricky Fowler shot 62. They broke the
62 in the first round, which
U.S. Open record. Rory McIlroy shot 62, I think, too. Par of them. Somebody else shot 62 too.
I knew there was 2, but I didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
Well, this golf is a par 72, not a par 72 like they normally are.
Right.
And that's the thing, is like we were talking about winning on Saturday. You have 3 great rounds, and then you lay an egg on Sunday, and it's like you might as well not even shown up.
Yeah, and that's what happened to Ricky Fowler. He had a bad. I think he bogeyed 1 on Sunday, hit his ball right into the rough. And anybody out there that doesn't watch golf, the U.S. Open has the deepest rough of any major.
Yeah.
Rough is, a good, 6-7 inches deep. The ball sinks to the bottom. You can't see it. For us amateur players, without having somebody see where the ball lie or where it goes after you hit it, you'd be looking half a day trying to find the ball in that rough. Me, the golf course was much longer. A lot of the players carried what they call rescue clubs or stuff like that. They had an 81-yard. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I hate to run, but Neighbormind needs help. So
no problem, Gerald.
We'll see y'all next week. Y'all
Sounds good.
Safe.
Yeah, you too. There was an 81-yard par 3. I've never seen a short par 3 like that at any major for that matter, but especially at a U.S. Open. But they had an 80. On Saturday, they had it set up for 81 yards. That was the hole, 81 yards.
I think there are putt-putt courses that have longer holes than that.
81 yards. The shortest hole I think ever in the game of golf, I think, was played at Las Vegas. Keep saying Vegas. It's not Vegas. It's Los Angeles. But yeah, it was a good golf tournament. I don't know if the golf course is open to the public. I think it's a private golf course, like most of those
members only
tour play on. I know the women's U.S. Open, I think, is next week. That's at Pebble Beach. Now, that's a golf course that I or anyone can play on. You can go out there and play. That's one of those stay and play type things where it's cheaper if you stay on property and go play golf that way. But congratulations to Wendell Clark on winning his first major. Hopefully Ricky takes this and gets back on track. Rory came up a stroke short. He's getting so close. 33 majors now in a row that he hasn't won one. So he's starting to get – I think it's starting to wear on him that he's not winning majors like he's supposed to be doing. Right, exactly. But yeah, it was exciting to watch on Saturday.
I guess for him, the course you say it was, had to be, I guess, pretty rough. The part was pretty rough.
Yeah.
And not for that. Or, I mean, worse than that. If Eliza in your caddy, well, who wants to be my daddy? Just want you to be my caddy. Oh, no. Come on. You know he's going somewhere with that. Come on.
So before we move on, so has the sale of Liv gone through? Is that a done deal yet, or?
What I've heard, Bud, is that the sale will be done at the end of the year, which again, that's a good 6 months away, 5 months away, however you want to say it, because July is the week, not next week, but the week after. But yeah, I wrote an article about it, and my boss, or my former boss at the golf course I worked at for 10 years, sent me a message on Instagram and said, hey, he goes, I read your article and you said that the war of golf is over. Is it? And I said, well, yeah, Liv won. Liv won. I don't know why people think the PGA Tour won this battle. They lost the war. Liv won the war because the Saudi Arabian government basically just bought the PGA Tour. That's hands down. That's what has happened. And I don't know what.
I thought the PGA was absorbing Liv. Am I wrong about that?
Thought so too.
But then if that's the case, then you still have one of the Saudi Arabian, royal family on the PGA Tour's board. So you're going to be getting Liv money pumped into the tour anyway. I guess the PGA Tour did absorb Liv and the DP World Tour. So though all three tours will be now one. So now my question is, how are they going to schedule everything? Are they going to schedule Liv events where you only play 3 rounds and PGA Tour events are 4? I'm not a scheduler, so I don't know how that's going to work out.
You play 3.5 rounds.
3.5.
3.5.
But what you do is you take all the rounds that you're going to be playing, Divide them equally into 3 and just play that many rounds.
Okay.
They play what is it? 63 holes instead of 70, 72. They play 63. Okay.
There you go.
Well, let's see.
Who knows? That might happen. I don't know how crazy that is, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
63.
I think what
go ahead, bud.
I think what it means. Sorry, I was trying to do that out of my mouth. I think what it means is that if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah,
I think well,
yeah.
For want of an example, I think that the PGA Tour saw the writing on the wall. Liv wasn't going anywhere. Liv was going to win the war, and so instead of ending up like Blockbuster, who passed on Netflix, they just said, let's buy them now before they're too big to be bought out.
Mm-hmm.
Get out in front of this thing, and it ends up being a win-win for both. The PGA Tour doesn't have to worry about losing golfers to Liv, and Liv doesn't have to outspend the PGA to compete.
Right.
No.
I think that's what it, and why everyone was all shocked and dismayed that the PGA bought Liv. I was like, I don't know why you didn't see that coming.
No,
I saw that coming a year and a half ago when
when
Liv Golf was first announced. And the other one was they're for either to survive the prophecy from Harry Potter was. Neither can live while the other survives. That's what it was.
Correct.
One was going to have to kill the other.
Yeah.
So if you can't beat them, join them.
Yep. That's true. We can jump in, guys. We didn't get a chance to really kind of go through anything last week, but congratulations to the Denver Nuggets. We were on the NBA earlier on their first championship as a franchise. Obviously, Joey Djokovic is no joke. That he's a player. Obviously, that team is good. And congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights. They don't like to be called the Las Vegas. It's just Vegas. On winning their first Stanley Cup. Obviously, I picked Florida. The Panthers either had that 9-day break, killed them, or they didn't show up for the 5 games that they played. I don't know what to.
I didn't think they had a chance anyway.
I think it was a combination. The 9-day break is a killer, and they were so beat up by the end that I just don't think they had anything left.
Yeah.
Those long breaks are super hard to get back into the swing of it.
Right.
Yeah, especially in a fast-paced game like hockey, where you're sitting and waiting for 9 days. You can only stimulate so much in practice because you don't want to get you can't have a full. You can't simulate game speed in practice because nobody wants to get hurt in practice, so everybody's taking it a little bit easier. And so when you get in the game and getting down 2-0 was a killer. You can't fall behind. And unfortunately, Bob was so good in the first 3 rounds, he had nothing left by the time to get to the finals. And I think that was the big difference.
I was going to say, Bud, you're exactly right. Because when you are starting a championship series, whether it's the Stanley Cup, World Series, whatever it is, where you have NBA championship, whatever's, if you're the road team in the first 2 games, your goal is to win at least 1 game on the road because you flip home court if you can do that. Now, if you can win both games on the road, now you've totally flipped it upside down. But to win 1 on the road, that way now you come back for games 3 and 4, you have an opportunity to win and go up 3-1 and force the home team that started the series at home, put pressure on them going into game 5 game 5. So you look at that way. Unfortunately, like you said, Florida went down 2 games to none in Vegas. Vegas looked good in the first 2 games, and game 5, did Florida even bother showing up?
Florida was already on Pebble Beach, man.
Yeah, you get beat 9-2
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, the good news is at least Vegas got to do it on home ice. That might be the
That's
only
always fun.
about it.
Right.
Is they got to do it on home ice. So, you know, the thing about Vegas is you look at Bruce Cassidy, who's their head coach. With Boston last year, he gets fired, and Boston wins the most games. They win the President's Trophy. Oh, by the way, the team that beat you, we beat them in the Stanley Cup. Now I have a cup, and you're going home early. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's a good payback for Bruce Cassidy, getting fired and winning a cup.
You can't take it away from me.
Yep.
That's my ring.
That's okay. Speaking of head coaches, it looks like Sheldon Keefe is going to stay with the Maple Leafs. They have a new GM, but did they hire their GM? I don't know if they have a new GM or not. But Toronto's in trouble. They're gonna blow that team up. I think. I honestly think that they've gone so long hoping that it would turn around, and it hasn't.
No.
Well, unfortunately, they have so much money tied up in Marner and Matthews that
Matthews
they can't.
is an agent after next year. Next season,
Right.
He's a UFA.
Right. You know, they have to do something this year. They can't. You know, getting out of the first round was only so good.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
they have to do more than just get out of the first round.
Yeah. Yep. And another team in Canada has a new owner. The Ottawa Senators have a new owner.
$1 billion.
Yeah. They I think the teams. I think Ottawa's on a rise. They got a young core. Look for them to be competitive next year. I don't know if they'll make the postseason, but they're going to be right in the thick of it again, like they were this year. There are some teams that are on the rise that we have to, as hockey fans, we have to understand that they're coming up. You can't be bad forever. It doesn't work like that. Sooner or later, you find a head coach, you find the right, 25 guys, and it comes together. So I think Buffalo's another team. The Sabres, I think, are on the rise as well. There are teams, so
New Jersey.
The Devils, the Devils made it to the postseason last year. There are teams that haven't had playoff success in such a long time, and we'll be back. I think, when is the NHL draft? Is it next week or the week after?
Yeah, I think it's next week.
After. Okay. And we all know.
I knew it was in July, but I couldn't remember when.
Connor Bedard, that's the one that's the number one overall pick.
Yeah, he's consensus number one.
He's going to the Blackhawks because they won the lottery, and there are a lot of people that are not happy with that. But that's the way the balls fall. That's the way the ball.
Yeah. I just don't like the draft lottery. I think it's stupid.
I honestly think that the NHL and NBA should do like they do in the NFL. Whoever loses the most games gets the first overall pick.
Right. You know what would be fun? Is to flip it and let the best team in the league have the number one overall pick. Make the worst team in the league. Then it wouldn't be a race for the bottom.
Right.
You make a good point about that. Yeah, you're right. Have the team that won the championship. Okay, you get the first overall pick. Now you're not. Now you have to win to get a better pick.
Yeah, you have to. It incentivizes winning. It incentivizes, not tanking. Putting the best squad on the ice every night.
Right.
So why not flip it? Yeah, is it going to keep? And these things are cyclical. It's not that there's no guarantee that Bernard or Benerick or whatever his name is,
Bedard.
Right.
It's going to be any good. He might not even play a shift. He can have a bust tomorrow. Who knows? Not that I'm wishing ill on the gentleman, but you never know. And so, I really think they should think about flipping the script, putting the worst team at the bottom, forcing them. The worst team in the league. They're stuck with the last pick in the draft, the last pick in the first round, and then you incentivize. And then the good teams, the good teams can stay good for longer, or trade on of that first pick, and it gives so much more leverage to, it creates a different structure where instead of always seeing the worst teams in the league getting the top 5 picks and then doing nothing with them, you actually get to see good teams getting good players and continuing to have success. And it's not a race to the bottom, because being the last team in the league is an incentive to get. You're not getting a better draft pick.
Right.
You're going to get a crappy draft pick, so you put your best team on the ice, the best team you can field.
Yeah.
And then teams like, Seattle, and they're picking what? They'd be picking what, 8th or 9th?
Something like that. Yeah. Oh,
instead of picking 22nd.
Yeah.
And then you can continue to grow the league by putting good players in. Vegas can continue to be good. Seattle can get better. Toronto, they got a shot at continuing to build that team up. Boston gets to be good. Boston gets to continue to improve. New York gets to continue to improve. The best teams in the league deserve a shot at the best players.
Right.
And so there's a perverse incentive to be bad.
Yes.
Because if you're a bad team, you're going to get. There's no incentive to. The incentive is to sign a whole bunch of washed up has-beens to sell an extra seat or two, and stuff for luck.
Yep.
And so I think it would be interesting to, instead of having the worst team pick one, have the best team pick one, and force the bottom feeders to actually have to invest in the team to actually try and get a better pick.
Right.
By the way, the draft starts Wednesday.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump to this because I saw something, guys, right before we got on here. The LSU Tigers have lost all of their wins between 2012 and 2015. That was when Les Miles was head coach. I guess he violated rules, and he is no longer eligible for the College Hall of Fame. So, yeah, that I saw that pop up. I wanted to ask you guys. To me, I understand he was their head coach, right?
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, the guys that get punished are the players. He's getting punished. The players are punished, and the players didn't do anything wrong. That's what I don't understand sometimes about college.
Why are they getting punished and he's not?
Exactly, Lou. That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. Yeah. Go ahead.
Like, way to go, stupid. I mean, you're the one that did the crime, and you're letting your players take the rap.
Yep.
Coach, all right.
And we're so far removed from it. It's really just kind of silly at this point.
Yeah, that was what, 8 years ago?
Almost 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about games that happened more than some games more than a decade ago, and we're vacating those wins. And I mean, it's not like you're gonna. And so the teams that they beat get a win, but it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things.
That's not going to change anything. Yeah. No. Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Did they win a national championship?
I think so. 2013, 2014.
Did they win a national title?
I thought they did.
Let me look real quick. I'm curious. Won a national championship.
2012 was the Seminoles, right?
Yeah, that was. I think that was Jameis Winston, right?
Right. I think it was 2013 that LSU won their last title. Because Bama won in 14 and 15, if I remember right.
Notre Dame, Alabama beat Notre Dame 42-14 in 2013.
Okay.
2014 national championship. That's the year the Seminoles won.
Okay.
That's the year the Seminoles won. And then the 2015 national championship was, let's see, who played? Ohio State beat Oregon 42-20.
Yeah.
Who won in 2012?
2012 national championship was LSU.
There it is. Okay, so it's 2012.
I'm sorry. My apologies. Alabama beat LSU 21-0. That was that national championship game. That was a very boring national title game. I remember that game. That was
before it started.
National championship. Because wasn't it like 0-0 heading into like the third quarter or something, or fourth quarter? Then Alabama scored all their points late in the game, if I remember correctly.
Something like that, yeah.
I've been wrong. But yeah, so so they didn't win a national championship, so no national title was vacated in that case. So
then what's the point?
That one right here.
It doesn't do anything. I don't understand why they take wins away.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not like they unplayed the game.
Right.
And it's not like, the biggest problem is that we're so far removed from any of that stuff that even if they were playing ineligible players or something like that, it has no effect on like all those LSU's, the wins are just vacated. It's like the game's never happened.
Right.
By the way, if you want a boring game, I got one for you right here. LSU and Wink are scoreless in the 10th inning.
That Florida's waiting the winner of that game.
You might have the
Gators are waiting.
My coffee. In fact, make it 2 cups.
And so for me, I just don't see the point in vacating and forcing teams to give up wins. I mean, if you scoured the rulebook long and hard enough, I think every team that's ever won a game could be found in violation of some rule or another. And so every win, loss, and tie should be just vacated, and like, what does it matter at this point?
Right.
It's not like they're vacating wins from last year, or 2 years ago. It's not like they're forcing them to give up scholarships or visits, recruiting visits, scholarships or anything like that. They're vacating wins from games that happened a decade or less ago,
or maybe further, or longer.
Just about it, almost a decade ago to a decade ago. There we go. Almost a decade up to a decade ago. These games that are super irrelevant at this point. If in 2015 or even 2016, if they were caught doing the wrong thing in 2016, then you might have an argument for saying those wins should be vacated.
Right.
But what are you all you're telling me is don't get caught.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. The biggest thing for me with vacating wins or anything like that is just all it tells me is that they especially from games that were a decade ago, is that they were so good at whatever they were doing that they didn't get caught until it was long, some kind of statute of limitations or something. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I don't believe in that.
Yeah, I know. It's the NCAA, so.
Now, if you want something really weird, I got one for you right here. Now, of course, I'm keeping track of the draft. And the Raptors have selected a player. His name is, I swear I'm not making this name up. I swear. His name is Grady Dick. That's right. His last name is Dick. Oh.
What they'll say. How do you get Dick from Richard? That's nicely enough.
Yeah, I'll say the show. I'll say it's Grady Richard. Yeah, I'll just do it. Not to embarrass myself. Excuse me, Mr. Dick. Oh.
There was an article. Go ahead.
I didn't know Moby had a brother. Oh dear. Oh.
Moby was the whale.
These are the top 5 quarterback rooms coming into the 2023 season. See if you guys agree with the top 5 that they picked. It's USC, that's the Trojans, Texas, Georgia, UCLA, and LSU are the top 5, according to CBS. That's CBS's rankings as far as quarterback rooms coming into the 2023 season.
What does ESPN say? Or no word?
I don't know what Lou, how I don't know how CBS came up with their rankings, but that's just the way that they were ranked out.
Yeah, we get CBS, of course. I mean, they've been around forever. So
right.
But ESPN, of course, I think is more of the official, authority on college football.
Yeah, they have to be one of the highest as far as college football writers and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
I'm surprised to see UCLA there.
Yeah, they're ranked 4 out of the top 5. Yeah.
Like, have to give it to Georgia. They're 2-time national champions. I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't know about Georgia. Georgia has some huge question marks at quarterback because they don't. It's just that because they're going to have to replace Stenson Bennett, and that's Texas. I like Texas. I think Quentin Ewers and Arch Manning, they're nice. SC, I don't remember who's backing up in SC, but Caleb Williams is considered a top 5 prospect, if not a top 2.
Yeah, I've seen years. Tampa Bay. So, yeah.
I don't know who's at UCLA, and I don't know who's at LSU offhand.
Right.
I think LSU is bringing back their quarterback from a year ago. I think a lot of the kids from LSU are coming back for another run. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't win the West this year. I honestly can say that. I would not be surprised. They got off to a bad start a year ago. Brian Kelly turned them around and got them into I think they won a major bowl game. I think they were in the SEC championship game. Yes, they were.
Yeah, they got steamrolled.
Yes.
So, again, they were in there last year, too. So, I think that Alabama is on the down. I think that their time up on the West is going down. I would this year, so I can't wait to do that.
Yeah. I remember 2014.
Yeah.
And everybody said Nick Saban was done, and Alabama was on the downside, and they were on decline, and yeah.
Oh no, I mean we could sit here and doubt them all you want, and then watch them go undefeated.
Yeah, exactly.
Watch them roll through everybody. I mean, like I said, they play USF. I think it's the 3rd game of the season for both teams.
Second or third, yeah.
I'm gonna go on a limb and watch them probably hang 50 or 60 on USF. I wouldn't be surprised. So
no,
I'd be shocked in the world if USF somehow beat them. That would be like one of the biggest upsets in college football if that ended up.
It would be the biggest upset in college football.
So
I think Ohio State's got question marks at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia's got question marks at quarterback. Oklahoma's got question marks at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Florida's got question marks at quarterback.
Yep.
Kentucky's got question marks at quarterback. Can J.J. McCarthy take the next step and become a passing threat and open up the playbook for Michigan? That's going to be a huge question mark going into 2023. And can they three-peat and continue this little run against Ohio State? Continue this run, against Michigan State, Penn State. Can they take the next step and go and win a major bowl and make a championship run? Those are the questions that Michigan's going to have to answer.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's the same. You can say that about pretty much everybody, except for Georgia. The only question mark Georgia has is can they figure out the quarterback? Because if Georgia figures out the quarterback, they're very seriously talking about three-peat.
Right.
And Georgia has to be, Athens has to be a buzz with the three-peat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming Kirby Smart, he knew Stenson was, leaving, as a senior, retiring from college, leaving as a senior. But I'm assuming he's got prospects that came in, whether they were grooming them from last year or he had transfers. Because again, you have the transfer portal, so you can get a kid.
Yeah.
Because the kid Penix went from Indiana to Washington, right? Am I getting that right? So there you go with that. He's done very well for the Huskies. So there could be a kid out there that says, hey, man, I can go play at Georgia and win national championships.
Yeah.
Smart wants me to come here. Sure, why not? Hop on the next train to Athens. So, I mean, it comes down to the thing is, it's like they lose all these kids, right? You lose all these kids of the draft. You're like, yeah, that team is out. Then all of a sudden, next thing you know, they're just as good or better than they were a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next man up scenario for a lot of teams have that because you can bring in 4 or 5 star talent to replace the 4 or 5 star guys you've lost. So
a lot of times the guys that were waiting in the wings were better than the guys they were starting.
Absolutely. Correct. Right. Absolutely.
And it's like we want to get him in the game, but the other guy wasn't playing bad.
Right.
No.
And so now you got juniors and sophomores and juniors that were better than the juniors the juniors and seniors that were starting last year. And so, and then, Alabama does this. Alabama's done this for the last decade and a half of just reloading. Alabama has a bad year. A bad year for Alabama is 10-2, and a Sugar Bowl win.
Yep.
So
there are many people that say if they didn't lose their wide receiver against Georgia, they would have beat the Bulldogs 2 years ago.
Right.
So again, that's the thing with the SEC, and now you have Texas. You have Texas and Oklahoma coming in at a scary time. Oklahoma, I'm not 100% sure of. I don't know, but with Gerald and my friend Bobby, who actually watches our show, they're big Texas Longhorn fans, and Texas seems to be blossoming at the right time as they get ready to come into the SEC. And it's going to be interesting to see the transition as with any team that transfers to the Big Ten. Look at UCLA and USC. How different was to watch them move into a conference, and correct me if I'm wrong, bud, that's been known more for their defense than their offense. It's always been strong defensively. All the teams are
3 yards in a cloud of dust
defensively. And now you bring in UCLA and USC, who are Pac-12 teams, where they have that high-paced offense that everybody runs west. Correct. So it's going to be interesting to see the teams coming from a different conference. Like, okay, now you have to adjust to a new conference and how these teams play against each other. And again, I'm not saying anybody in the Big Ten doesn't have a great offense. There's a lot of great offenses in the Big Ten. It's just they're more.
Big Ten football is known for run defense.
Right. Correct.
And so bringing in schools like USC and UCLA, it changes the narrative around the Big Ten. And what I'm excited to see is UCLA and USC in Indiana in mid-November, or in Wisconsin in mid-November, when it's an 8:00 kick in Madison, and it's 15 degrees with an inch of snow an hour for the next 8 hours.
15.
That's going to be
chill of 15.
With a wind chill of -15.
-15. There you go. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, Michigan or Ohio State UCLA is playing Wisconsin at 8 p.m. on Saturday night, and Michigan just got done playing SC and sunny South Florida or South Carolina, Southern California.
Yeah.
And it was a 3:30 kick in sunny South California, Southern California, and it was 75 at game time. And then next week, Michigan is playing Ohio State in the shoe, and it's 45 with it's 45 and raining and sleeting and it's going to be interesting to see the turnaround between a Michigan game in Southern California having to come back all the way across the country to play Ohio State in Columbus, in an incredibly hostile environment, with a trip to the Big Ten championship game on the line, and a trip to the national championship, the playoffs on the line, and I know we're expanding to a 12-team playoff, a seeding, a trip, a better seed in the playoff, and it offers a new wrinkle to college football. It'll be interesting to see, Penn State playing in Southern California in October, where it's still, it's 75 and sunny and gorgeous, and then 2 weeks later they got to come back to they play the second week in October. They go to SC, and then they come back to Penn State, have the week off. And then they come to Ann Arbor for Halloween, and they play a game in Ann Arbor in late October. It could be snowing in Ann Arbor for all we know.
It will.
And then Texas and OU coming to the SEC from the Big 12, a more run and shoot kind of offensive style of football. And the SEC is known for defense just as much as the Big Ten. And what I'm curious to see is how that affects recruiting in the SEC. Can Texas come in and compete? Because it's what I think has hurt Texas over the last. I think it's hurt all of football over. It's hurt every school, and it's not in the SEC. That isn't the Georgias, Floridas, and Alabamas of the world, because you don't have to sell Tuscaloosa in October. You don't have to sell Tuscaloosa in November. You don't have to sell Athens in November. You don't have to sell the Swamp in November. It's going to be okay. Well, even if it's raining, it's 65 and raining. You're not going to, even if it's a torrential downpour, it's still going to be mild. You're not going to have to, it could be 2 inches of rain an hour with a 35-mile-an-hour wind. But that rain is still going to be at least warmish.
Well, I was going to say, Bud, you were talking about weather. When I went to the USF game when they played the Gators last year, it was, again, it's 75 in Florida. It's a different 75 anywhere else. But it's interesting because normally at that time of the year, it's a little warmer. For it to be 75, I mean, yes, football, but and it's not going to matter because you got a team coming from Tampa. It's not like you're coming from a cold weather state down to 75-degree weather and you have to worry about dehydration and all. You're not going to get tired of 75-degree weather anyway. But it's like you said, weather's going to play a factor with teams coming from like Southern California going to Ann Arbor, or Southern California going to Happy Valley, or going to Columbus in October and November when snow is prevalent. Like, it doesn't snow in Southern California. They don't have to worry about cold weather in Southern California. So it's going to be interesting to see how they adjust to having to go play in Wisconsin, in Madison. And, it's
and the thing about it is how is that going to affect recruiting in Southern California?
True.
And you don't have to sell Texas. You don't have to sell Oklahoma. Those are nice weather places. You don't have to sell Austin. You don't have to sell Athens. You don't have to sell the Swamp, Gainesville. You don't have to sell Tuscaloosa. it's going to be nice no matter what time of year it is.
Yeah.
And you don't play football in mid-June in anywhere. So it's not like it's going to be, like Death Valley. Yeah, that might be hot. It might be hot in Death Valley. LSU. Where I think that's New Orleans, right? They're in New Orleans, aren't they?
Baton Rouge.
That's right. Shit, I knew that.
Well, now you said Death Valley, and you remember there's also a Death Valley in South Carolina. Clemson also.
Right, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the ACC.
Although I think it's really hard to compare.
But that's the same principle, though. You don't have to sell football at Clemson. You don't have to sell the weather in Clemson.
No.
When you're talking about Ann Arbor, Columbus, Happy Valley, Madison, you're going to get bad weather games. You can from mid-October to the end of November, it could be snowy, it's going to be cold, it could be snowy, it could be rainy, a game could start at 3:30 and it could be 45 and raining, and by the time the game's over at 6 or 7, it's switched to straight snow, and it's gotten, and it's sticking, and that rain has turned to slush, and it's just an absolute nightmare to play in.
Mm-hmm.
Duh.
We're talking mid-October in Madison, you could end up in a blizzard.
Yeah.
You probably will anyway.
Yep.
And we're talking, and then it's not just playing, but it's the logistics of it too.
Yeah.
That's the thing about flying from Southern California to Ann Arbor. You fly into Ann Arbor, get off the plane, get on the team bus, get over to the hotel, and do you come in on Thursday just to get acclimated to the weather and the time change? The time change is killer.
Yep.
Exactly. Oh yeah.
And we know from the NFL, they're like, West Coast teams are like 10-154 and 12 in 1 o'clock games on the East Coast. They don't play well on the East Coast during the day games.
Nope.
And so, especially if Michigan and UCLA is kicking off at noon on ABC or CBS or wherever, or Fox, because or NBC, I forget how the TV all moved around. But if UCLA is kicking off against Michigan at noon on NBC, in Ann Arbor, it's only 9 o'clock in the morning for those guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Do they miss? And they're your UCLA is a school first. They care about just as much about athletic or academics as they do athletics. So they're not like going to give those guys a week off of classes to come to Ann Arbor to get prepared for a game.
Yeah.
Unless they're gonna do some kind of hybrid schooling where they take all their classes in Ann Arbor instead of at UCLA or something. Which I don't know if that's even possible for them to kind of accommodate that.
Right.
So the logistics of the thing is gonna be a bitch because if you're trying to get ready for a day game on the East Coast, you need a day or two to get acclimated to the time change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's and then the thing about it is that going to the West Coast and playing a night game is going to be awful because an 8 o'clock kick or a 7:30 kick in Southern California is 10:30 here.
Mm-hmm.
So although I think most of those games would probably start at like 5, so that wouldn't be like an 8 o'clock kick. So going west isn't as bad as coming east because even an 8 o'clock kick, I think just for the sake of having good football, having UCLA and USC come to the East Coast, coming to Ann Arbor, coming to Happy Valley, Columbus, Champaign, Madison,
yeah,
Bloomington, wherever the hell Indiana plays. And Northwestern, nobody cares about them anyway. Most of those games are either going to kick off at 8 or 3:30 just to make it fair.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Well, gentlemen, with that, should we close the show out with that? Close it out on that. Go ahead if you want to talk about your show.
All right. Enhanced Sports Show rolls on Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 to 5 in the Central. Number to call is 512-543-4662. You know we're going to be discussing the NBA draft as we're covering right now. The College World Series, if this game ever ends, because right now it's going into the bottom of the inning with no score. Excuse me. Yeah, but it might be going on the next Sunday. We'll also cover the USFL playoffs. That's right, I said USFL playoffs. We'll recap the U.S. Open golf tournament. We'll also have your thoughts and comments. Welcome as always. The ridiculous sign of the week. The sports trivia. The feel-good story of the week. I'm going to hold off on the best and worst of this month because we still got a week to go, so that'll be on the July 1st edition. Cool. And I'll try to, with the NBA pick, I'll try to say, I don't know if I should use the actual name or not, or use the word for Grady Richard. I'm gonna have to think about this for the next couple of days. Do I say Grady Dick or do I say Grady Richard? Oh boy, this is gonna bug me. I wonder what he's gonna say on the show when I announce the name. Yes, folks, his name is Grady Dick.
You can bleep it out in editing.
I don't know if we can do this. So see if I survive this show on Saturday because it might be my last. Oh boy. So God willing, I'll be on Saturday. Hopefully, if I survive, I'll be on next week. Back to you guys.
All right. Well, guys, please go check out Lou's show. It's very informative. He does a lot of different stuff than we do here. I think that's what makes all our shows unique is we do things differently. It's not the same show after another. Everyone's got their own different thing. But I want to say thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight. We'll be back here next week, the last week of June. I almost said July. Last week of June. We'll be back on Thursday, 8 o'clock. We might have a guest. I don't know yet. I don't know what's going on with that. If we don't, we'll be back doing what we did tonight. I want to thank the 4 networks that have us on, our 3 sponsors that have us. Thank you so much for continuing the support. Until then, guys, I am the Sportster Brad Walker. Everyone, stay safe out there. We love you guys. Until next week, peace.
Back print Sunday.